He didn't even look up when he tossed the ID on the floor. The teller behind that thick, bulletproof glass dressed sharp as a tack. Not a hair out of place dropped a black man's ID like it was trash, then turned away with a shrug so casual you'd think he was flicking lint off his sleeve. Nobody made a sound. Nobody so much as blinked. The only noise was the soft slap of plastic on tile and the heavier thud of 1,000 silent judgments sinking into the room like bad air. You know what I mean? That's how it starts, not with shouts, but with a look, a gesture, a small humiliation that goes unnoticed by everyone but the one holding his own dignity like it's made of glass. Nobody stopped it. Not the folks behind in line. Not the suits passing by. And in that quiet, something snapped, but it wasn't the kind of snap you'd see. It happened inside him, the man at the center of the hush. He just stood there, stone still, almost out of place, but somehow more real than anyone else in the room. Nothing fancy about his clothes, just a basic suit, boots a little worn, skin dark and proud, visible and invisible at the same time. Now what came next? It didn't make the news. There were no fireworks. Just a test of dignitia, kind of quiet fight most people never even notice. Before you find out who he really is, take a second. Because what you think you're seeing isn't the story at all, it's just the setup. Let me back up a sec. Darius Harlan pushed through the glass doors of Stratton Financial just past noon, sunlight bouncing off the marble floors behind him. The whole place was polished within an inch of its life-glass walls, brass everywhere, piano music floating out of hidden speakers. The kind of lobby designed to make you question if you belonged the moment you walked in. Darius, though, he played this game before. Dress well. Speak soft. Move like you've got every right to be there even when they look at you like maybe you don't. He paused, straightened his slacks, and scanned the lobby. The receptionist, Aninslee, hands busy on her keyboard, blazer fitted like armor, never looked up. Darius gave it a beat, then another, hoping she'd see him. She didn't. A man in a crisp gray suit slid in behind him, briefcase swinging. Before the doors even closed, Aninslee snapped to life. "Good afternoon, Mr. Kellen." Right on time. Just like that. Darius watched as she smiled, handed over a badge, shared a joke about the weather. Then, back to her screen. Darius? Still invisible. He tried again. "Excuse me. I'm here for..." She didn't even look up, just raised a hand. "Wait." He waited. When she finally nudged the pen holder toward him, not a word, just a scrape of plastic on glass. It said more than any greeting ever could. Around him, people breezed through, no delays, no questions. Darius stood his ground, cleared his throat, explained his business. Aninslee, clipped and cool, pointed him to the teller line. He took his place. The line moved. Folks ahead of him joked about their weekends. A whiff of expensive perfume drifted over. His turn came. The teller, Brenna, barely looked up, shuffled papers, then eyed his ID. She picked it up like it was dirty, turned it under the light, face pinched with suspicion. "Is this your only ID?" she asked. Darius nodded, said yes, it's valid. Brenna didn't answer. Instead, she leaned to her neighbor, whispered, glancing his way. The two shared a locust smirk. "Really?" Brenna finally told him she'd need to verify. "Is there a problem?" Darius asked. "Just protocol," she muttered, vanishing with his ID. He waited. The couple behind him grew impatient. The room pressed in, silent, eyes on him, but not really seeing. When Brenna returned, she handed him a paper, no explanation. Darius, calm, explained again his account, his check, his deposit slip. Brenna laughed, asked if he was sure it was real. "It's a certified check," he replied, steady. She asked more, "What business? Where's the office? Tax documents, proof?" Darius blinked. Nobody else got this treatment. He watched as a man in a suit was welcomed by name. A woman behind him got a smile and a receipt. Brenna barely looked at Darius, except to glance at his boots, a small thing, but heavy. The next day, Darius returned, envelope in hand. The lobby smelled of hazelnut coffee, the air thick. Aninslee, this time, gave him a polite but hollow smile. At the counter again, Brenna. Again, the ID scrutinized, the check doubted, the silence stretched. Her colleague Paige smirked, their whispers, their laughter, just loud enough. When Brenna finally returned his documents, She told him against system couldn't find his account. Darius explained, showed paperwork. Brenna sighed, asked about his client. New contract, Darius said. Eyebrow raised, Brenna called the manager Mr. Harland. He showed up, short, balding, suit stiff as cardboard. Glanced at Darius, reviewed papers, promised to check with operations, then disappeared, leaving Darius stranded while clients came and went. Harland finally reappeared, handed back the documents, said they couldn't process the check. No real reason. Try another branch. Darius didn't argue. He collected his things, headed for the door. As he left, Brenna called after him, next time, dress for business before you try to play in our field. Laughter followed him out. But Darius wasn't done. He came back, hoping maybe a new face would mean a new chance. The young teller this time, polite, professional, almost a relief until Brenna's whisper from the next window poisoned the air. The young man hesitated, checked with the manager, left Darius waiting. Brenna, louder now, joked to the next client about sketchy paperwork and vending machine IDs. Laughter again, this time from a man in golf cufflinks. More jokes about those boots. The check slipped from Darius's Honda, picked it up, slow and steady, as Brenna made another crack. Still, Darius stood tall, collected his things, walked out. Outside, the city's noise pressed in, the heat sticking to him. Back home, he sat at his kitchen table, the envelope like a dare. For an hour, he stared at it. Was it worth going back? Was it worth the fight? He didn't want to make a scene. He just wanted to be treated like any other man with an account. Still, the right to stand there wasn't enough. He returned, day after day. Each time, more questions, more suspicion. Paige, now at the window, asked about everything: what the check was for, what project, what city, what school he'd attended. The line behind him grew. People muttered. Eyes flickered his way. Paige left to verify his papers. Came back with Mr. Traz, a supervisor with a slick suit and an even slicker smile. Traz asked for everything: business info, reference letters, proof, more proof. He suggested maybe Darius should bank somewhere better suited for his size. Darius asked if they'd say that to someone else, dressed different. Traz just smiled. When Darius pressed for a reason, Traz dodged. We'll be in touch. One last time, Darius came back, dressed sharp, boots shined, voice steady. He asked for supervisor. Brenna demanded to know why. He explained every document. Every answer, still no transaction. She took his ID, frowned at her screen, then fetched Traz. This time, the lobby grew quiet. Darius asked for a written reason. Traz said they weren't required to provide one unless it was fraud. Was he being accused of fraud? No, not officially. Why then the refusal? Inconsistencies. What inconsistencies? More vague answers. Darius looked around, saw customers watching, heard the whispers, the discomfort. He wasn't angry. He wasn't dramatic. He just picked up his documents and stepped into the middle of the lobby, silent. Then he did something no one expected. He reached into his folder, pulled out the original contract for the biggest municipal project in the state, the one financed in part by Stratton's own executive division, with his signature Darius A. Harland, managing director, right there on the bottom. He didn't storm the office. He walked upstairs to the mezzanine, where the VP of Finance saw him, recognized the name. Darius handed him the contract, waited while the VP's face went pale. Darius asked quietly if the executive office had any idea their own investment division had nearly ruined a public contract by humiliating a key partner. The VP stammered, offered to fix it. Darius didn't want an apology. He wanted accountability. He left the folder, walked out, past Brenna, past Traz, past every person who dismissed him. In the days that followed, everything changed. Internal memos, compliance reviews, HR interviews. Brenna's pattern of excessive scrutiny came to light. She was let go. Page 2. Traz was put on leave under investigation. The receptionist, Aninslee, resigned. The lobby shifted: new staff, new policies, new tone. Darius never gloated. He never told the story for sympathy. But word spread about him, about what happened. He started mentoring young professionals, giving them what he never had. The bank rewrote its procedures, added oversight. Darius declined invitations to tell his story. He let the change happen in silence. But the story wasn't over. 6 weeks later, Tras called not for forgiveness, just to say he understood now, to admit he'd mistaken policy for prejudice. Darius told him to remember not just what he'd seen, but what he'd ignored. Shortly after, the bank required written justification for every refused transaction, reviewed by a cross-departmental panel. In the end, Darius didn't walk away with triumph, but with clarity. His presence had forced an institution to look at itself. Change came slow, not perfect, but real. People who once mocked him moved into work that helped others. The culture shifted. Questions changed. Judgments paused. Doors opened a little wider. On the day Darius was invited back not as a client, but as the keynote speaker at a summit hosted by the same financial coalition that once doubted him, stood at the podium, silent for a moment, then asked the room, "What would our world look like if we believed people the first time they told us who they were?" That's the moment things began to rebuild. If you felt that shift, if this story struck you, let me know in the comments what moment hit hardest for you. Do you think justice was done? Where do you stand on what's fair, what's right, and what's just business as usual? Your voice matters, so don't just watch. Be part of the conversation.